Listen to Salam Media.
The time is just gone 19 minutes past 9 a.m. as we continue with the show this morning. And we are now talking about kidnapping in South Africa on the rise, major concern in the country. And we chat this morning with Lizette, Meyer, Lancaster, Project Manager, Crime and Justice Information and Analysis Hub at the Institute for Security Studies. Lizette, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you and to the listeners, and thanks for having me.
Yes, it's clear that kidnappings or the rise in kidnappings in South Africa is of major concern. And looking at it from the ISS perspective, the percentage, 133% spike in this type of crime in the last 10 years.
Yes, and that is pre-COVID times. So between 2011 and 2020, 133% increase in the number of crimes. Of course, there was a lull sort of last year, that financial year, although we haven't had the clear statistics from the police yet. But what they did give us is the quarter one, so it's April this year to June this year, where we were still under lockdown, but we saw that there was another spike in kidnapping. And we anticipate when they release quarter two stats today, they will see another further spike. So between April and June this year, we already saw the same number of kidnappings that occurred in the entire 2008. And it translates to about 26 on average a day in this country.
Well, Lizette, this is of major concern because when one looks at the increase in these kidnappings and when one looks at who is behind these kidnappings, we are now hearing about multinational syndicates now brazenly operating even during daylight hours. Yesterday, I've seen a WhatsApp message, a lengthy WhatsApp message doing its rounds, talking about a number of dockets at the Johannesburg Central Police Station. We've seen City Press saying that they've seen some of the dockets now. Clearly that, looking at all this, and in fact, it's actually horrific because these people are acting with impunity, and what was taking place in Mozambique in the last few years is now coming to South Africa.
Yes, we are seeing more and more of that Latin American type kidnapping for ransom or extortion happening here. And what is concerning is the sheer number, right? There's from the 2019-2020 stats, we were looking at about on average one a day happening in this country. We don't know how many are happening now. Of course, many of these don't even make it into police statistics because they're not reported. By far, still the most kidnappings occur during robberies, armed robberies, such as hijackings, where people are taken to and from their places of business, homes, and such. So there's definitely also our local gangs moving into this arena. But yes, of concern if we look at some of the high-profile kidnappings, such as the Sandra Munsami case, where there were two Mozambican nationals as well as local persons up for prosecution in a case. And of course, we don't know who the kingpins are, which is far more concerning.
Yes, we don't even know if those kingpins are in South Africa and pulling the strings from other parts around the world. But looking at children, and children seem to be very vulnerable. We've seen it in the case of the poor Moti children. We've seen what has happened now in Johannesburg outside the school in Mayfair 2 days ago. So children seem to be paying a huge price for this type of crime.
Yes, so we don't know what number, or what percentage of these type of kidnappings are underage children. But when we look at the modus operandi for some of these kidnappings, it's like these people are hardened criminals with no, the sense of, I don't know, morality almost, to be able to kidnap young children like that. But we also see, in the case of the Mozambican tycoon's son, that adult children get kidnapped. These children are used as leverage, and there's no better leverage, of course, for these syndicates than parents being concerned for the safety of their children. It's the ultimate leverage to get what they want. And that the fact that they are so brazen and pointing firearms at children and so on is very, very concerning. It means that these people have done it before, that they are quite hardened, because most of us won't be able to point firearms at children.
Yes. Now, one critical issue is social media, because when one looks at some of the risk factors that are associated with this type of crime, the key issue here is social media, and we know that we are so engrossed in social media these days. This is an area where one needs to be a bit wary of and a bit watchful of, as it could place people, particularly children, at great risk.
Absolutely. Of course, we also know that many kids are kidnapped by people known to them. Either we've seen recently in Free State a toddler being kidnapped because the father owed money, allegedly. We've seen a teacher kidnapping a child because they needed money. So there's also the fear of people near us. But where social media comes in, and we all want to brag with our children. I know when they were little, you put their schools on social media, you put some of your wealth, your fancy cars, all of that on social media. And unfortunately, that does provide some information about your movements and what you are doing. So we must be careful who we tag, and we must be careful to put too much information about our children. Also, when it comes to teenage children, they're particularly vulnerable on social media. So we really need to monitor what they post as well.
Yes, and let's just talk a bit about the money, because some of these sums of money are insane. Massive.
Yes.
We're talking of millions, in fact, and it could even run into billions, because this appears to be a multi-million dollar or rand industry that these gangs are operating with. But also at the same time, they have become very, very sophisticated, Lizette.
Absolutely, and this is a global increase we're talking about. It's not just South Africa. So obviously these global type syndicates know how to funnel money through foreign accounts. They often use cryptocurrency, and they just have their foot soldiers, in all the different countries. But they definitely have, some dealings with or some information about these people that they target, because it's so lucrative. I mean, most people don't have these multi-millions to pay. So they definitely are targeted for what is perceived to be their wealth. I mean, but we have to be careful. We don't know the facts in many of these cases. We hear terribly large amounts being mentioned, but I mean, there's no confirmation ever. And I mean, this is concerning, because these large amounts might encourage other people. It's a relatively lucrative business if you can make millions by this. I mean, it's much more lucrative than doing a cash in transit robbery or, a business robbery, for instance.
Yes, Lizette, just looking at our security apparatus, our intelligence, our police services, and with the numbers doing what they are at the moment, the spike in this type of crime, just how serious is the government? How serious is our security apparatus in dealing with this crime, but more importantly, to arrest those who are responsible? And also, as you mentioned, we're talking of an international problem right now. So the likes of the FBI, the likes of Interpol getting involved in, addressing this very, very serious matter that is playing out.
We know we have many good men and women and we've seen successful bringing arrests and prosecutions in some of these cases. The fear is the kingpins. We do see the occasional successful prosecutions of transnational crime syndicates, most recently the scam syndicate in the Western Cape, where there's often good cooperation between all these various international law enforcement agencies. I think we have to also understand that we have many good men and women that are fairly well resourced and capable in the police and the Hawks to deal with this. However, the sheer numbers are starting to be quite concerning. The question is whether we have enough resources to deal with this.
Well, Lizette, we definitely will continue following up on the story, but for now, we thank you. We appreciate you taking time out talking to us here on Salam Media. We wish you all the best, and please take care.
Thank you. You too. Goodbye to your listeners.
Lizette Meyer Lancaster joining us this morning, the Institute of Security Studies, raising these concerns, and more importantly, the statistic is horrific. 133% spike in this type of crime in the last 10 years. And the key issue here is we need to be vigilant, we need to be watchful, but more importantly as well, when it comes to things like our wealth, our assets, and let it not be a situation where we show these things off. And because this raises certain eyebrows, remember, people are watchful. People are watching us all the time, and let us not take things for granted. Let us not be complicit about who we are, what we own, and those type of things, because I think that is absolutely important. And in many instances, when we see this type of crime, we know that in certain instances, there have been personal motivations where people have got a grudge against somebody owing somebody money, and not honoring that. So we know that that also happens. But in a number of instances, people have got an eye on your wealth. So please be careful, please be watchful. The time is just gone 9:31 a.m. When we come back, we'll be talking to Dr. Mustafa Mehta. We're talking about the government of the ex-Yemeni president having secret ties with Israel.
These days, I'm more health conscious than ever.